Good morning and welcome to On the Wrong Lead presents Saratoga Daily. I am Mark and we're talking a little bit of Wednesday, August 26th Saratoga card. This is the start of the week before the last week at Saratoga. This is classically the start of Travers Week, but obviously it's not with the Jim Dandy being swapped to this weekend. And I've had some questions about why I'm not doing as many of these as I did to start the meet off with, and quite honestly, these take quite a bit of time. There's quite a bit of effort, and these are often what I tend to do is I handicap the card and I look for sequences that would be palatable, that I can make educational, where I can give you something and you can learn a little bit about handicapping, about my process, things I look at Saratoga, and I can't find those in every card. A lot of the cards over this weekend weren't the strongest, and I just wasn't finding situations that I liked, that I felt like, hey, I can teach the audience something, and I can also give them a play that they can get behind and they can learn as they go. So I didn't really do any the past little bit, and I think I'm going to continue doing that. I want to turn this into a daily, but I only want it to be daily if there's content that I feel is good for the audience. I don't want to just throw it out there, and anybody can go out and buy a tout sheet. You can get free picks some other way. I only want to be adding content if it's good, if it's really usable. And also, just for Capone, I am wearing Banana Republic once again. This past weekend we saw the Diana on Sunday. We saw Russian Fall come back to her form that we saw as a 3-year-old, where she was a freak. She was very, very impressive. I think the race set up perfectly for her, but she looked really good. And I think Chad has her really right. It's going to really be really exciting to see her fall campaign. I would imagine they're going to put her into the Breeders' Cup. Filling Mare Turf would be the logical spot. They could always throw her into the mile as well. She obviously, has the kind of kick to get home in those races. Very excited to see her run again. A horse I think everybody really likes. She's been great. So really, really nice to see her back in good form. We haven't had any weather. Got a little bit of rain Monday, I think, evening, but I think the track should play similar to how it was last week. Turf is probably still a little bit speed favoring, and the dirt was pretty fair towards the end of last week, and I'll watch the early part of the card to see if I need to make any tweaks to this, but I think this sequence is this late pick 3 is a very interesting sequence for a number of reasons. So we're going to start off here in race 7, which is the Mahoney. Major scratch out of this race, the 10 horse scratched out, who was the morning line favorite. I don't think the 10 horse would have actually been the morning line favorite. I think Maven, the 8 horse in here, would have been the morning line favorite. This is what Wes Ward does. Turf sprinters are his bread and butter, and it's what he's best at. He gets these 2-year-olds, loves to ship them over to Goodwood. This is one of the ones that went overseas. She came back, after a long layoff, almost a year, and was very impressive in that last out at Keeneland during their very short meet. She's, I think, very, very, very good, and I think she's going to be really, really tough in here. I know a lot of people want to take a stand against her. She's definitely stepping up in class a little here, and she's been kind of the fragile type. She hasn't been consistent, but I think she makes a lot of sense in here. But I also think this is a type of race where there's a lot of horses that have sort of what ifs and buts kind of behind them. Horses trying this distance for the first time who might do well here, horses getting surface switches, all sorts of things. So the other horse that I want to use in here as an A horse is a bit of a price, and it's the 3 Competitive Saint. Competitive Saint is 2 for 2. George Weaver's only win on the meet, which is odd for George Weaver to be as cold as he's been. Horse has won now on dirt and on turf, and that last out race was very, very, very impressive. Horse getting up, winning by a nose. Sayers is real good for George Weaver. Sayers sticks here. The horse is a price. The horse needs to get better, but has every right second off the layoff to get better. There's obviously that first start on dirt in May at Gulfstream. The intermediate layoff comes back on turf, which is kind of, by the pedigree. A competitive edge doesn't scream turf to me, but horse was very impressive last out, and I will give this one a shot as an A, as a bit of a price potential, as George Weaver does point towards Saratoga normally, and he normally does move this type forward. And then I want 2 C's in here. The C's were sort of some head-scratching horses that sort of, why are you here types. This 6 for Saffie Joseph, Island Commish. Rosario jumps up on this one, which is always a good sign. And this is a horse that is shortening up. Now, the figures on this horse just don't fit. This horse needs to improve a ton, and I don't really see a race in the 9 career starts that make me think, oh, this horse has the ability to step forward enough to be a player here. But Saffie's been doing pretty well. Rosario gets up. He's arguably the best turf sprint rider in the country. And something, I don't know, this one sort of, and also works on this horse were phenomenal. So this is a horse that I like as sort of a C play on a pick 3, and I might move up to a B even on something like a pick 4 or pick 5, because you don't want to catch another price and not have the 15-1 that was pretty logical in there as well. The other horse that I thought was a little bit interesting, and I should say probably a lot interesting, is Jack and Noah. My issue here with Jack and Noah is Jack and Noah, sort of what happened in that last out start. I don't think there was any excuses. Jack and Noah was very, very, very short priced in that race. Went off at 90 cents on the dollar, was beat by 2 others who come back in this race. Now, the track when that race was run was very speed favoring, which probably didn't help Jack and Noah, who got run over, but I would like to have seen Jack and Noah hold on quite a bit further than he did. It feels like something might be off. This one might be on a bit of a downswing, a bit out of form. I don't know. Something just feels off here, and I'll let Jack and Noah beat me, even though Jack and Noah has worked very well since last out. My other little bit of a concern with Jack and Noah is Jack and Noah arguably needs the lead. Has not really ever passed horses, and Maven's just faster. Maven is going to get the lead. So I don't know what happens when Jack and Noah has to sit just off, and maybe the 2 of them both need the lead, and if that's the case, I mean, 5.5 furlong turf races don't tend to fall apart, but the quick call theoretically did fall apart, which is Jack and Noah's last out. So there's a chance this totally comes apart again and sets up somebody like, an old chestnut type. I'm not going to use them. I think I like the upside I have with Competitive Saint, who can sort of sit that pocket trip. I think Competitive Saint sits just off the speed of those 2 and is the most likely upset potential. I like the upside here. I feel like I have more upside potential, and that's how I'm gonna sort of play that. So effectively, I'm using what I think is the best speed horse, and the best little horse that's going to, I shouldn't say best speed horse. I think Maiden is the speed of the speed. So I want the speed of the speed in this race, and then I want that horse that, if the Maven and Jack and Noah hook up, can sit that pocket trip, sit just off, and can sort of pounce when those 2 come off. Moving on to the 8th. I'm going to single in this race, and I'm going to single probably with not the horse most people are going to single with. I think most of the money here is going to go through Blowout. Blowout is sort of the logical Chad in here. Best last out figures. Hasn't really ever been disgraced. It makes a lot of sense. But my issue with Blowout is that Blowout really doesn't have that killer instinct. Doesn't really love to win. Always seems like and obviously this is a much easier spot than the last few outs, but Blowout seems like the type that I don't know, a bit of the hangs, a little bit photo shy, whatever you want to phrase it as. The horse is always sort of involved. I would never leave the horse off a trifecta, but neither of the 2 races at Saratoga on the inner have been great. This was that Lake Placid that last year where with Dog Tag and Regal, or sorry, it wasn't the Lake Placid, it was Lake George, with Dog Tag and Regal Glory in it. That was the 3-horse Chad field that the longest price won, and everybody scratched their head at. Blowout was involved in that debauchery. I don't trust the horse. I want to go someplace else, and as much as it's sort of hilarious, there's 2 Chads in here, and I chose the other Chad. I chose the longer stuff, the two price Chads. Obviously, I'm getting 5-2 versus 9-5 with Catch a Bid. I don't think Chad would use Blowout as a rabbit. I think that's the wrong way to put it. But in this race, Blowout is effectively the rabbit. I think Blowout sets up Catch a Bid. I think Blowout is the speed of the speed in here. sets those honest front, front end fractions, and really sets up a rad pretty nicely for a stretch run. And another thing I'll say about Blowout, and not to beat up Blowout, I'm probably talking the horse right into the winner's circle. If you look at Blowout's jockey history, this horse has had like the revolving rotary door of jocks, and it seems like whenever jocks have choice of some other horse in the field, they don't end up back on Blowout. They pick somebody else. To me, that sort of seems that the jocks are sort of telling you that this horse is very talented, very good, just not quite up to whatever else is in that field. Maybe this field is soft enough. Obviously, we're talking a horse coming out of a G3, dropping down to an optional 80. This optional 80 didn't come up crazy soft, though, and I just have a feeling that Blowout doesn't get it done in here. So yeah, I beat Blowout to death. I'm using Catch a Bid. I think Catch a Bid gets a really good setup, can sort of stalk that pace. A Rad will have a lot of options on how close he wants to stay to Blowout, and I think he comes rolling home down, or rolling in the lane. Horses, a win in a second at Saratoga. Yeah, I just prefer Catch a Bid in here quite a bit. So flipping into the last race, and you'll also notice I picked a sequence that's all turf races because I think turf races have been a bit of price specials, and this race just is absolutely nuts. Every single angle that you could possibly want in a turf sprint is in this race, and this race is just super interesting. So whenever I see these types of races where you have a bunch of horses with experience and there's a couple of new shooters, I always pick the best new shooter and make that horse an A. And for me, that's Adma, the Chad Brown horse. I'm not getting super creative there. Obviously, Chad with Jose up on the turf, this is a super logical horse. Is going to probably be on most people's tickets. I think the morning line is a pretty good price if you can get that. Horse might be win bettable. Was not a works horse, but has been seemed to be working well up here, and it's not going to surprise anybody if that horse wins. The works horse in here is Let Them Eat Cake, the 8. A- work, which is, you very, very rarely see a work that good. Rosario was up on this one last out. Rosario stays here after the last. I don't really think there's a good excuse for that last start, except for it was off a layoff. So you're getting second off for and Ian Wilkes up with Joel Rosario. Joel Rosario up for Ian Wilkes. Horse makes a lot of sense. Probably ends up being your favorite, I would imagine, come post time. Horse doesn't really need to improve that much to win here. Pedigree's there, and I think it's a super logical horse. I'm not getting anything creative here. The other horse that I wanted as an A was American Goddess, the 10. T-Gaff has been riding very well on the turf. Arad gets off this horse to ride the Clement horse, and there's a bunch of weird jockey games in here, but I think American Goddess, I don't mind the jock switch here. I think Gaff's been riding real well, and I think he makes sense on this horse. This horse has been slowly and steadily improving. Every race is a touch better. I think the cutback in distance probably is real good for this one. I know American Pharoah isn't a turf horse, but you can't fault the American Pharoah, who's absolutely been lights out on turf so far this year. And I think American Goddess makes a lot of sense. And I think also American Goddess, because it doesn't have one of the bigger name turf jocks, is a horse that might get left on the board a little bit. You could get 8 or 10 to 1 on this horse. It wouldn't surprise me at all, because there's so many other options in here. It's a really interesting race, and the horse might be win bettable if you get that 8, 9 to 1 range. And when I was talking about with these jock games, I do tend to play a lot of Follow the Jocks at Saratoga, and obviously Christophe Clement and Rosario were super hot towards the beginning of the meet. There's Clement in here, and it doesn't have Rosario on it, so that makes me think, obviously Arad was up on the horse last time out. I don't know and I don't know that race, I didn't look back at it, maybe Rosario had a better option, but it seems sort of interesting that, the horse ran okay and just faltered late. You're getting the surface switch to what appears to be the right surface for the 7, but Joel didn't hop back on this one, so the horse ends up being a B for me, and that would be the 7 down me up. The other horses that I have that are super interesting, and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to get picked on, but Madman McLean is super, super interesting in here. Horse was a works horse. You're getting a Closaris horse. Obviously, Closaris is 0 for 13, and he's 0 for 14 in turf sprints. So, there's some scary things there. Horse didn't run terrible last time out. And yeah, you're getting Cohen. Obviously, Cohen has not been a super hot jock up here, and definitely not on turf. I don't think he's got a win on turf. But I tend to look at turf sprints a little bit differently than I look at turf routes. I'm okay with the dirt jock, somebody like a Santana. They're usable as a B in these types of races because I think they run more like a dirt sprint than they really do a classic turf race. So I think Madam McLean is a super interesting horse in here at quite a bit of a price. And the other horse that I wanted in here that I was teetering between a B and an A on is the 6, Ballerina Showgirl. This is a horse that you're seeing horse came off an artificial turf race at Kempton. Artificial probably is not the surface for this one. This is a turf top and bottom pedigree, all sorts of turf all day in here. Lascano obviously rides great for Linda. There are positive ROI connections. You're getting 15 to 1 on the morning line. This is a horse that I have as a B right now. If I see the horse taking a ton of money, I actually probably will win bet this, and I think this horse is win bettable down to like 8 to 1. I think the morning line is very bad in this race on this horse specifically. Horse has been working fine. Linda does well with this type. Turf sprinters again are very much Linda's. Something Linda does very well with. Horse seems to be working well. And this is a horse that I find just super interesting at quite a bit of a price. So I end up with that one as a B. I'm again teetering B versus A. And this is what I ended up coming up with for a pick 3. So $100 base here. And, the all A's for $8. And both of my single B and my single C plays end up being $4 per. Very quickly, if you wanted to move that 6 up, you could. It would make it a 7, a 4, and a $3 play. I sort of like that as well. So effectively what you're doing is you could catch the 6 or 9 on the first leg and then catch that 6 and still cash that ticket. You're getting a touch less leverage on the all A ticket, but I think you're getting you're still getting a pretty nice. There's definitely some price potential in there, and if you can get around Maven and then somebody like Ballerina Showgirl wins the last, this could be one of those that for $1 pays 300 type of pick 3s. Now, obviously, there's 2 ifs in there. You need to get your single through in the middle leg, and I can understand if somebody wanted to use maybe both the Chads, you could then be a $3 and a $2 play, and that would also be a good structure. So this is what I like about using multiple tickets is that you can very quickly fiddle around and look at what's my per bet amount, how much leverage do I like. For me, a pick 3 is more of a leverage play. I want that leverage, so I'm okay with that single. But for others, this may be their budget for the week. So I understand if this is your budget for the week, you might want to take a more conservative approach, have a higher chance of hitting, and be okay with a smaller amount when you do hit, just because this is your budget, and you're not looking for that big score. You're looking at a 3x score is better. Where I'm looking for something like this, I want more of that 10x return. If you like this content, like and or subscribe to it. It means a lot to us. We throw these up for fun, and it's really nice to see the community support us. Hop on Discord, chat with us. I can talk all about this sequence. I really like this sequence. A lot of these I've thrown up and I've been like, okay, this is a playable sequence. This one I really like. I like the 3 consecutive turf races. The weather's great out today, and with a bunch of rain, looking like we're gonna get rain in the next 3 days. Maybe your last chance to play some turf races for a few days. So until next time, good luck at the races.